I want to talk about recruiting. I want to talk about recruiters. I want to talk about who are the best in this profession today, because in this unprecedented time of recruiting, we have seen a few men continue to do exactly that, and to great effect. One of them, Al Washington, linebackers coach up at Ohio State, who, along with being accused of cheating as being a part of on-the-field drills with his players by Jim Harbaugh in a Big Ten teleconference call that took place with Ryan Day, we have to look at him and say, what has he been able to do except rise to the top of the 2022 recruiting rankings already, with Ohio State picking up recruits like CJ Hicks, Gabe Powers, Tegra Teshabola, and Jair Brown, which means that they have already they have already earned commitments from two of the top players in the state of Ohio, both at outside linebacker. They've also picked up a top offensive lineman across the country, and they picked up a cornerback that hails from the state of Louisiana, which means they get to go down there for the first time in over a decade, perhaps, and pull out a Louisiana prospect. And then there's Charles Huff. And if you know Charles Huff's name, you know that it's at the top of the list for the 2021 recruiting rankings, and he is an assistant at Alabama. And in a story in The Athletic, Bruce Feldman talked with a few of the players and their parents about what it is that drew them to Alabama, and Huff was such a big part of it. Joe Brooks, who is the father of Ja'Cory Brooks, a five-star wide receiver committed to Alabama, said he was just such a people person. He just knows how to break down the information in the right way and knows how to make you feel welcome. Again, Brooks is a five-star and could be one of the better players in the entire recruiting class. Then add to that, Huff was a lead recruiter on guys like J.C. Latham, who is one of the top offensive tackles in the 2021 class. And then there's Damon Payne, the best defensive lineman from the state of Michigan, which means that Alabama went into Jim Harbaugh's territory and came out with yet another top prospect. There's Dallas Turner, the number 43 overall player in the 247 Sports Composite, whose father, Dylan Turner, said, hey, that was the weekend after the NBA season that we just decided to shut everything down. And then Charles Huff gets a hold of us, and we're having these conversations, and he's making us understand just what it might mean for my kid to pick Alabama. And you know, there are lots of folks that aren't surprised at all that Charles Huff has been able to earn the respect and promise of so many commitments. As my man Mayberry pointed out to me yesterday, it's the little things that get done. Because Isaiah Wilson apparently goes and gives a interview in which he said he was committed to Alabama. He tried to go in for a hug right after committing, and Nick Saban came with a handshake. And I'm going to tell you, in my culture, that's a good way to run me off. That's a good way to tell me you're not really in on me. Nah, we hug it out, especially with this commitment or promise. You might as well have just asked me to marry you, and I said yes, and you going to come in with a handshake? Nah, dog. I can understand that. And when you have Charles Huff, who comes from, well, a really great tradition of recruiting in, black college football, you understand, right? His mentor, Joe Taylor, was once the number one recruiter in black college football. And Taylor, a Hall of Famer, who led Hampton to 5 black college national championships, is not surprised by what Charles Huff has been able to do. I need to also add that there was one dude, named Charles Huff, who showed up as a walk-on at Hampton and tried out at fullback, tight end, and guard, and then ended up starting as center and team captain on the 2005 national title team that went 11-1 at Hampton. Yeah, dude knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants in a football player. He knows what good football players look like. He knows what joy looks like. And to let Taylor tell it, Huff was always very confident and had this great personality. He was a great guy to be around, a born leader and great communicator. He was one of those guys who made coaching a joy. Whenever he walked into a room, he took over. He was always gleaming and so positive, and that has that knack that brings out the best in people. Man was also coming up like all of us, just wanting to be somebody and be something. And when you get to a place like Alabama, you are empowered to do exactly that. And yet, when we look around the rest of the country and we see who is winning recruits at the highest level and we see what the recruits are buying into, you can tell who's doing the work. You can tell when a linebacker coach not just knows your name, but knows your parents, knows your friends, and knows the little things about you. Doesn't see you as a piece of meat that he is recruiting along with some other linebackers, but sees you as the person that he wants to help build him a national championship team or to join a national championship caliber winning program like that of Alabama. And you continue to go down the list and you find more people that are in on that recruiter as a person and as a leader than not. And when I hear kids talk to me about who's recruiting them and who's not, so much of this has to do with, are you treating them like you would treat a normal human being? So much of 2020 for me has come down to decency. Are you decent? Are you interested in their humanity? Have you actually considered the humanities around them? Have you considered the environments from which they come from? Have you considered that being yourself and authentic to them is the most important aspect of it? I know one kiddo that was committed to play or wanted to commit to play at Oklahoma, ran into some problems, and then had a conversation that was very much authentic to who he was and where he comes from, acknowledging the role of his parents in his life. He was being raised by a single mother. And that getting to mama and making mama understand that I'm going to take care of you and that you can count on me is a big deal. It's not just to walk in there and give the Cale Gundy speech of, yo, you can go down there, but we're going to beat you. It's implied, right? And in this age with interconnectivity, where the kids talk to each other all the time in their group chats among all of them, they're always in the know. They don't make long distance phone calls. They don't communicate via email. They don't have to wait for your reply. It's instantaneous, and they can talk to each other all the time and frequently do. They grew up together now. They don't see each other as adversaries. They see each other as colleagues, and they have formed their own brotherhood through years of playing in the same leagues together, with each other together, for different head coaches. And now you know more about those coaches, you know more about those position coaches, you know more about those offenses, you know more about what those programs stand for than you ever did before as a high school recruit. And in the people that are acknowledging that the kids are smart, or at least as smart as they are the ones that are winning their commitments, are the ones that are putting together national championship caliber football teams. The more you try to wrap your hands tighter around these kids, the less likely they are to let you. I think that always needs to be at the forefront of discussions that we have when we talk about players, when we talk about recruiting, because you care. Even if you don't think you care because you can't wait to, one, see that kid play for your university, and two, you're gonna really, really hurt when your university absolutely sucks playing football. When all that needed to change was get you a Charles Huff who understands humanity. Understand the human being, you can get the player.